At Dillon's, shop Kroger brand products for all of your favorite things this holiday season. Because our proven quality products come at exceptionally low prices. And with a money-back quality guarantee, every dish is sure to be a favorite. From sweet sugar cookies and holiday ham to that perfect slice of pie. Whether you shop delivery, pickup, or in-store, Kroger brand has all your favorite things. Dillon's, fresh for everyone.
With Shipped same-day delivery, you get more than just groceries delivered by hand from your favorite stores. You get to hunker down for holiday movie night, toast mimosas with friends, or check out the neighborhood light displays. So while a shopper with Shipped checks off your grocery list or makes that last-minute trip to the store, you get the greatest gift of all, more you. Get more from the holidays. Download the Shipped app and start shopping today.
Welcome to Top 5, a show where we count things down from number 5 to number 1. And this week, I think we finally timed it out right. Listener request. Hey,
we'll
guys.
See.
Yeah, I know, right? Hey, guys. It's that time of year again. How about Top 5 holiday songs? Top 5 holiday songs. Now, I've kept mine all in this winter holiday, depending on when you're listening. Hello, future people.
Hello.
But I don't know if everyone else has done that. So I'm cautiously going to say, Matthew, what do you have for number 5?
Well, my number 5 was gonna be the song from that episode of Victorious, but then I realized it's really problematic and it's 16-year-old girls in tiny Santa outfits. And I said, no, I can't do that because ew. So I said to myself, when you think about the holidays, what's the first thing that comes into your mind? And of course, to me, it's new wave of the 1970s and early 1980s. And so my number 5 is a song called Christmas Wrapping by a band called The Waitresses, which actually ridiculously for the last 4 or 5 years has shown up in a commercial every single year. The Waitresses are the band that did I Know What Boys Like, if you remember that from 81 or 82.
Love that song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great song. They also have Christmas Wrapping, which is the song of a girl who's too busy to fall in love at Christmas. But she ends up falling in love at Christmas because, it's a Christmas song. She's talking and she's sort of rapping in that, that Blondie third verse of Rapture kind of embarrassing way. Yeah. But it's really wonderful. It's really holiday appropriate if you think the way I do, because I don't know about you guys, but I'm kind of a weirdo. So I'm really happy with this. And actually, the thing that I really enjoy is that there's a Spice Girls cover of it out there.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it's a Spice Girls B-side that is a cover of Christmas Wrapping by the Waitresses. Perhaps the 5th greatest holiday song in the history thereof.
Ooh, I might have one that beats that, Matthew.
You might.
So I moved to Atlanta in the mid-'90s. And when I got down there, right around Christmas time, everyone was like, oh my gosh, we can't wait till the radio station plays this song. This is like, I think, a regional phenomenon, because I had never heard this song until I moved to Atlanta. And everybody just lost their crap every Christmas because they had to hear this song. And they'd turn up the radio and they would announce it like, coming up in 20 minutes, we've got this song. It's I Want a Hippopotamus for Christmas. Have you guys heard this song?
Yeah.
It is.
I grew up with that song.
It is a crazy little song. It was a novelty song from now I forget who the singer was. Gayla Peavy is her name. Yep. She was 10 years old at the time. This was recorded in 1953. And it's about this girl who wants a hippopotamus for Christmas. Nothing else will do. And she's just talking about how great it would be to have a hippopotamus. And the first time I heard this, I was like, well, this is a stupid song. But then after 5 years of living in Atlanta and hearing this every season, it kind of stuck with me. And now when I tell people that I want a hippopotamus for Christmas, they just look at me weird because they're not tapped in to the holiday spirit and the greatness of that song.
Don't want no crocodiles, no rhinoceroses.
All I want is hippopotamuses, and hippopotamuses want me too. Rodrigo, what do you have for your number 5?
My number 5 is at number 5 because
It's the number 5.
it was clearly not meant to be a Christmas time song, but it has the word holiday in it. And I think the person who wrote it, I want to say, is Australian.
Okay.
And I think they and like British people consider holiday something else. A holiday is like going on vacation. And in fact, a holiday road is like a scenic road, I want to say. But for the past several years, I've been hearing more and more of Holiday Road by Lindsey Buckingham. Every time I'm at like a department store, and definitely there's like, I want to say like Jeep or some car company uses Holiday Road as a jingle during the, around where the holidays start in the United States, which is about September. So I like the song a lot, and I like the weird disconnect that if you listen to the lyrics, not only does it have nothing to do with the holidays, but it has nothing to do with anything.
Right.
It's like, it's a very short song. The lyrics are hard to pin down as to what they're talking about. It really is just like a bop, it's just like, here's this like rockin' little song that I feel probably made a splash in the charts, then disappeared for a long time, and has, probably in the last 10 years been slowly creeping into pop culture as a, what Americans would call a holiday song.
Yeah.
But it's really not. But I kind of like that about it.
I think the first time I heard this was National Lampoon's Vacation, right?
Yep.
Holiday Road is where that first popped up, for me at least.
Which is why, for years, my friend thought that the lyrics were, in fact, Wally Whirl. But if you want to really hear it bop, you should listen to the Aquabats version.
Oh, man, the Aquabats is fantastic.
That rules.
Yeah.
The latest revival of Mystery Science Theater has like uses it in a really good way. There's this like really terrible movie that they do that has a lot of like aimless driving in it, and they hit that like a few times. It's pretty good.
Yeah, that's very cool. All right, well, we've done our number 5. So far, so good. Adler, let's bring it around back to you again with number 4.
My number 4 is a song that nearly got me disowned as a child. And rightfully so, actually. As an adult, I realize how infuriating it must have been. My grandmother grew up in the Great Depression. My grandmother had seen some stuff. She'd seen 2 wars. She raised all of her siblings, raised all of her kids, ended up accidentally raising me and my siblings. She had been through some things. My grandmother was what you refer to as lovingly a battle axe. My grandmother was in her 70s, and she took no crap, which is why every year when the song came around, and I start talking like this, she threatened to strangle me because I love the Christmas song, Christmas Don't Be Late by the Chipmunks.
That one was almost on my list.
I hate the Chipmunks. I hate the Chipmunks cartoon. I hate literally everything about it, but the original recording, the fact that this man did this with, actual manual with analog recording things and just speeded up his own voice to pretend to be 3 different voices and then multi-tracked it and then put in his own voice normally yelling at Alvin. From a production perspective, it's fascinating. But when you listen to that and you're, a teenage idiot, it's a really fun song, Dave. We really love it. And you just, there's something about it that when you hear it, just puts you in a festive holiday mood, even though Alvin, of course, has terrible, terrible takes on Marvel's movies. I don't know if you saw that on the Twitter. But the Chipmunks have grown up to be just insufferable. There's actually, they literally ruined David Cross for me. And I love David Cross. David Cross is an icon because I love it when weird-looking balding men can, be famous and successful. But now David Cross is dead to me because of the Squeakquel. But I still will sing along every time. Christmas time is here.
Christmas time is here.
You have to do the voice.
Time. Well, I'll just speed it up. That way I can actually sound like a chipmunk.
True.
Matthew.
Yeah, Matthew.
Rodrigo can do the voice. I know he can. I've heard him do it.
I can, yes.
But he's not going to do it now because
Oh no,
It's time for me to do my number 4.
Any hedgehog time has to require some vocal exercise ahead of time, so I don't mess up my instrument.
There you go. There you go. So my number 4 is one that is really kind of weird because I didn't think that it would come up on my list until I was going down a bunch of Christmas songs. And I was like, you know what? There's something positive about this song that kind of makes me happy even when I hate, and to be honest, I'm not a big fan of Christmas. It is one of my least favorite holidays just because of the commercialized nature of what it has become. But there's something about Bruce Springsteen and Santa Claus is Coming to Town and his take on that song. There's just something magical about it, especially when he starts talking to all the other members in his band. He's like, hey, you want a new saxophone Christmas? And I just really like this song a lot. And I know that there's other renditions of Santa Claus is Coming to Town, but this one just sits in my mind as something that has this really kind of positive vibe going on in it, even though Bruce Springsteen has always been about how America is lost and how horrible things have become and how he wishes things could be back the way they used to be. And then you get his deep throaty vocals talking about how awesome it is that Santa Claus is coming to town. And it makes me less hateful of the holiday.
I love it when he cracks up. Mm-hmm. When somebody starts kicking in with the ho-ho-hos, and you actually hear, at least the recording that I hear repeatedly, has Bruce laughing and corpsing as he's trying to sing. It's wonderful.
Yeah. So that's my number 4. Santa Claus is Coming to Town by Bruce Springsteen.
Santa Claus is coming.
Oh yeah, when he starts railing in that last bit, it's just so much fun. So
it's called yarling.
I guess
it's half yowling, half snarling. It's what Eddie Vedder made famous a few years later.
Yeah. So Rodrigo, what do you have for your number 4?
My number 4 is a song that I wasn't very familiar with until actually one of my clients started playing it, and he didn't care. He played it all year. This is a song that he just liked. So I became very familiar with it. But it's actually pretty good. It's called Mary Did You Know? And it is a song in which the speaker asks the Virgin Mary whether she was aware of how important her child was going to be. It's a very, very like positively Christian song. But it's like, I don't know. It's very theatrical.
Yeah.
It's like kind of operatic in a way, and a lot of more recent groups have taken it and done like big arrangements to it. So there's a lot of good, interesting versions of it out there. Probably most notably, the Pentatonics had a version that was making the rounds on YouTube a few years ago.
I think CeeLo has a version of it too.
Yeah, I think when I first heard the song, I assumed that this was an old song, but apparently it was written in 1984.
Well, I mean, for some of our listeners, that is an old song.
Right. Big Brother is watching this song.
But you got to consider that the majority of the American Christmas canon starts at around 1940 and, through 1950 probably. So this is a very recent song to be floating around. Most songs that weren't like Bing Crosby, Dean Martin joints, like have not really stuck around too well.
Correct. I'm not sure I'm familiar with the song. I'm going to have to go and track it down because I know you saying so many people have covered it. I don't know if I've heard it.
It's the thing is like, okay, brief aside on Christmas in the United States. Everybody does something for Christmas because they as Matthew would put it, roll up the streets. But not everybody is religious, and not everybody's religious about Christmas. And this is a very religious song, so I think there's people that are kind of turned off by that. So if you have the sort of Christmas dinner where everybody sits down at the table and prays for a while, you are very likely to have heard this. If you don't, then maybe not.
Yeah.
Not so much.
Yeah. All right. So there you go. We're blowing through this list very, very quickly this week.
Pew, pew, pew.
And I
Pew,
think,
pew, pew.
but I think the positive thing is after everybody listens to this, because the request was they want to have some holiday music to listen to, one of our recommendations, they will now be able to sit down after this episode and listen to hours and hours of Christmas songs as we hit our number 3. And Matthew, what do you have on number 3?
My number 3 is going to slow us down a little bit because
Okay.
I have to take us back to the start. I have to take us back to the year 1914. And in the year 1914, something wonderful happened. Now, I feel like growing up with the last name that I have, I went through some stuff. Children can be cruel and they'll make fun of your name. And especially since my last name, has stuff in it that you can make fun of when you're an immature person. And also as an adult, because Steven still mocks me. It makes for a thing. But in 1914, Mr. and Mrs. Ravenscroft had a baby, and they named the child Thurl Arthur Ravenscroft. And the reason that I talk like that is because if your name is Thurl Arthur Ravenscroft, that's the voice you have. And in fact, that is the voice that he had. Everybody knows Thurl Ravenscroft as the voice of Tony the Tiger for like 11 million years. But if you actually go back to like Dumbo or Pinocchio or just tons and tons, Saludos Amigos, tons and tons of Disney shorts in the 40s and 50s, you will hear this deep voice. And so I knew who the voice was from seeing Dumbo and hearing Tony the Tiger. So when my number 3 Christmas song showed up in my life, probably 74, 75, about the time I became aware of, things, in a cartoon called How the Grinch Stole Christmas, I said, I know that voice. And then I started listening to the song and I laughed and laughed and laughed. My number 3 is You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch, because it's literally just 4.5 minutes of orchestrated insults towards a fictional character. But they are some of the most creative insults you will ever hear. Your brain is full of spiders. You've got garlic in your soul. Now, I don't know what that means, but I know it's not good.
Well, don't forget the termites in your smile.
Termites in your smile. You're a bad banana with a greasy black peel. And he just delivers it with that voice. I'm a lyric baritone. I'm a guy who people are like, hey, can we get some with a deeper voice? And I'm like, no, you get me. But I always kind of wanted to have that deep, Thurl Ravenscroft voice. Yeah. You want to have that because if you have that voice, you have a job. You will find a job with that voice.
In a world.
Yeah, well, that's a different guy. That's Don LaFontaine.
I know, but still, the deep voice.
He passed away too. Thurl Ravenscroft is no longer with us, sadly. Died probably 10, 15 years ago. But you can still, probably in the next week or so, depending on when you're listening to this, future people, actually hear him singing to the Grinch and singing some terrible, terrible things. And I don't know if you're me, and if you are, hi, say hi to Mom. I wouldn't touch you with a 39.5-foot pole. Stands right up there as probably the most holiday sentiment I have ever heard, which may say more about my holidays than it does about anything else. But nonetheless, my number 3, You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch.
Yeah, that's a good one. That is really a good one. I'm going to have to admit, my number 3 is kind of a cheat. Yeah.
You always yell at me when I do that.
Yeah, but I think this one, you'll agree, because the songs are so short that you kind of have to listen to them all at once, and it's just a magical musical experience. I'm fine with traditional holiday songs done in the traditional holiday way. I think that's fine. The Deck the Halls and We Three Kings and Good King Wenceslas and all that stuff. All just fine songs. But if you want a great Christmas album, which is my number 3, you need to listen to Christmas from Mannheim Steamroller from 1984, Christmas 1984. It is so cool how they bring, this modern synth, band sound. It's not just orchestra. It's like there's synth and there's so much cool stuff going on in here. And they've released several versions I don't know if it's every year, but they have released several versions of the Mannheim Steamroller Christmas album with different songs in it. But it's the 1984 album, because you're listening to songs that are literally 3 minutes apiece. I think Silent Night is the longest one. But the entire album you can probably listen to in 30 minutes or less. And it's just rocking. It is just really cool. Cartoon Network has used them. You hear these all the time. If you're wondering what this really cool rockin' instrumental Christmas album is that you hear during the holidays, there's a good chance it's the Mannheim Steamroller Christmas album from 1984. I know it's kind of a cheat.
The Mazda ad will come around here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. And I know it's kind of a cheat, but if you listen to one song, they're kind of like Pringles. You can't just stop with one Mannheim Steamroller Christmas song. You got to listen to them all. And is really good. It really, really is good. I think it's sold somewhere around 3.5 million copies have been sold of this album since its release. And they go on tour every year during the holiday time. You look, there's probably Mannheim Steamroller touring with their Christmas show, their Christmas spectacular. And if you get a chance, go see it. But if you can listen to that 84 album, definitely check it out. I'm a big fan of that. That's why the whole album had to be my number 3. So I know, bit of a cheat. But there you go. Yeah. Rodrigo, what do you have for number 3?
For my number 3, also I feel like Mannheim Steamroller is part of your starter pack if you want to synchronize your house's lights to music.
Yes, exactly. That's the other thing. Correct.
All right. So my number 3 is a song that is in Spanish, and it's actually a song about the new year rather than Christmas. And really, more exactly, it's a song about the old passing year. It's called El Año Viejo, which literally means the old year. And the first time I heard it was by Chico Che, who I think I've talked about before on this show.
I believe so, yes.
Sounds right.
Yeah, he's like his version is not very different from what I believe to be the original version that I found by Crescencio Salcedo. But this song is very weird. It's like I like it because it's a good sort of shuffle song to listen to. It's cool. It's nice. It's a good holiday song, but it's very strange because it says, I won't forget the old year because it's brought me very good things. And then he starts listing the things that it's brought on, and that's the chorus. And it's this list that says he got a goat, a black donkey, a white mare, and a good mother-in-law. And it's partially, I think, because it rhymes, but it's like I was always like, so did he get married this year? And
did he marry the goat?
Yeah,
well, maybe it's it's part of the dowry, right? The goat and the donkey, and then you also get the mother-in-law.
So that's one possibility, right? It's like he got married and he got all this stuff out of the deal. But really downplays the wife because that's what he was interested in, and it's like potentially the mother-in-law that made all that happen.
Right.
I also think that it's possible that he got married, and what he's getting at is that unlike what you would expect, he ended up with a pretty good mother-in-law, right? I mean, this is like, I don't know, 1940s Colombia. I don't know how woke this guy's gonna be. He's probably operating under the assumption that all mother-in-laws are not great. I don't know.
Right.
But yeah, it's a super weird song, but it's a very catchy song, and always kind of mystifies me as to why this particular list. And I really think it's just because it rhymes and it fits within the meter. But yeah, this is a mainstay, like a holiday mainstay at my parents' house, and now for me.
Very cool. Very cool. Let's see. I think we have made it all the way to our number 2 on our list. So Matthew, what do you have for your number 2 song?
As a young man, I spent a lot of time I joke, and it's not actually a joke. I joke that I was raised by a 25-inch Magnavox TV, and it's true. I spent a lot of time watching bad television, usually late at night, and one of the things that I love to watch is Saturday Night Live. And so Saturday Night Live is kind of a touchstone for me, which is why it will never be the holidays officially until I hear Adam Sandler sing the Hanukkah song.
Mm-hmm.
Put on your yarmulke. Here comes Hanukkah.
Yeah.
And the reason that this song exists is actually funny and also sad at the same time, because he tells the story at the beginning of how the reason that this song exists is because growing up, he never heard Hanukkah songs. He only heard Christmas songs. And so he's wanting to go down the list of people who will be sharing the celebration with him. And I really think that it's kind of nice. It's kind of fun, to hear about David Lee Roth and Paul Newman, well, half of Paul Newman, and just the whole breakdown of the song is wonderful. And some of the rhymes, I'm not an Adam Sandler fan as a general rule, especially not in, his 50s and 60s, where I find him to be just incredibly grating. But at the time, and even now, I laugh at the owner of the Seattle Supersonica celebrates the Hanukkah. That cracks me up, and I love that song. That song and Alice's Restaurant are things that I will literally go and listen to terrestrial radio to hear, and that's the only time that I do that, unless I'm actually in my own car, which is 257 years old and has a crappy radio, and I have to listen to the local area. But around the holidays, I will seek out the local station that will play the Hanukkah song over and over and over, just because we got Ann Landers and her sister, Dear Abby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
So all growing up, you hear what, the traditional holiday songs, right? The and done in the traditional way. Stuff that I think it was Matthew or Rodrigo mentioned earlier, the stuff that was done in the 30s and 40s. And that's what kind of was playing in my house during the holiday. But as Matthew said, if the Hanukkah song kicked off his holiday season, my number 2 is definitely a song that signals that Christmas time was here. And no, I'm not talking about Vince Guaraldi's Christmas Time song. I'm talking about the other song that not only typifies, and really, even though it has become the Peanuts kind of theme song, it's really Linus and Lucy from Vince Guaraldi and the Vince Guaraldi Trio. Now, this first appeared in A Boy Named Charlie Brown, a jazz impressions of A Boy Named Charlie Brown in 1964. But it really became a big deal when it became part of A Charlie Brown Christmas, the soundtrack that came out in 1965. And for Matthew and I, and for many generations growing up, during the holiday time before the invention of cable television, and for a while afterwards, you always looked for that CBS special presentation, and then you heard the bum ba da 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 dum bum ba da 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 dum. The Linus and Lucy theme song kicks in, and you're like, okay, Christmas has started. Let's get this thing going now. And I have just been a big fan of Vince Guaraldi ever since, as a young lad, hearing that song and just kind of listening to all the stuff that he does. But if you're just looking for, and I know everyone likes the Christmas Time Is Here song, Linus and Lucy from the Vince Guaraldi Trio is fantastic. And it's, I guess, I wouldn't even call it a Christmas song adjacent, but it's definitely for me a top 5 holiday song.
It feels holiday because even now, my kid knows that it's not Christmas until Peppermint Patty makes an ass of herself in Chuck's garage.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's still something that you will hear mostly in the latter months of the year, the holiday months. ABC now is playing the Christmas, the Halloween, and the Thanksgiving unedited, uncut.
Mm-hmm.
But because they're 45-minute shows, they're pairing them with lesser Charlie Brown shorts.
It's Salute to America, Charlie Brown.
You're elected, Charlie Brown. It's not malignant, Charlie Brown.
So that's my number 2.
A little penicillin and that'll go away, Charlie Brown.
Linus and Lucy by the Vince Guaraldi Trio is my number 2. And Rodrigo, what do you have for number 2?
It's Mexican Independence Day, Charlie Brown. Arriba!
Well, don't forget, what was that race? No, not Race for Your Life. What was the one that was the motocross one? Was that Race for Your Life?
I think Race for Your Life is the rafts.
Yes, that's what I thought. Which one is the motocross one? Where they're on the motorcycles.
It's a compound fracture, Charlie.
Probably.
Sorry, I just cracked myself up. You're a good sport, Charlie Brown.
Oh, that's got to be what it is. Probably, yeah. All right, Rodrigo, what do you have for number 2?
Wear a helmet next time, Charlie Brown.
Well, he does. He does wear a helmet.
I'm afraid it's permanent, Charlie Brown. Good grief. So,
Indeed.
My number 2 is another song in Spanish. It's interesting because in Latin America, the Christmas song, like canon, is very different from that in the United States. Again,
mother-in-laws.
Yeah, I mean, livestock features very prominently because it tends to be religious. So there are a lot, like a surprising amount of songs about donkeys, which this song is also about. El burrito sabanero, or El burrito de Belén, is a kind of again, mostly kind of a fun little shuffle. It's technically like a cuatricuo, I think is the name of the actual rhythm, because it's like Venezuelan, and it involves a cuatro, but I'm not entirely sure. And certainly the more it gets replayed, the more altered it becomes. My favorite version is the 72 Ricardo Quincy version, and because at the time Ricardo Quincy was a child, so it's a cute little song about the speaker, who, when you're listening to a child, sounds like a little kid. So it sounds like a little kid riding a donkey to go see Jesus being born. Because that's the deal, right? That's most songs in Latin America are gonna be about Jesus. But the interesting thing about that, like if you've ever seen like pastorelas or anything like that, is that a lot of these songs transport the speaker of the song or the audience of the song to the birth of Christ, but it's as though Christ was being born in Mexico or in Venezuela or in like somewhere else. It's like they still talk about like Bethlehem, but it's like it's like Bethlehem, Pasto, Colombia, pretty much. So it's weird. It's like it's a weird thing. I don't like, again, if you ever see those plays, is like there's like all these shepherds, but they're all dressed like Latin American shepherds. Like they have like big straw hats, and like they're wearing like local traditional garb instead of like what they would assume people in the Middle East would wear. So it's very strange, and this song really kind of matches that entire feeling really well, which is part of the reason why I like it. It's very repetitive, and it's sung by a child with a high voice. So usually after 2 or 3 times in a season hearing it, I start to get tired of it. But it really does kind of kick off the holiday season for me the first time that I hear it.
Yeah. All right. There we go. Thank you for that, Rodrigo. We have now reached the number 1, the top of our list, the songs that we think are the number 1 songs for the holiday season, or at least this year. And Matthew, what do you have for your number 1?
For my number 1, you kind of have to once again get a little backstory. And I try not to do too much backstory, which is to say more than I ever should. But nonetheless, my number 1 comes from a time in my childhood when there were a lot of the traditional songs. You would always hear the Bing Crosby. You would always hear, the Bob Hope. You would always hear the Jingle Bells, Batman Smells, whatever. You would have these things happen. And one of those songs struck me for two reasons. One, because it does not mention Christmas. It does not mention anything specific about the holiday or the time in which it is of which it is speaking. And secondly, it's written in triple time, which goes da 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 da. And I'm really fascinated by that because I'm a nonsense singer, which means if I don't know the words of a song, I will just sing along, and I'll kind of do like Jack Black fliggle-giggoos or flibber-dibbers to fill the time. But my number one, it's the most wonderful time of the year. And I grew up with the Andy Williams version. They're all great, with the exception of Harry Connick Jr., who can eat a big bug. Sorry. I'm sorry. It's wrong and it's bad. He is bad. His version is bad and he should feel bad. But it's the most wonderful time of the year is a great song to kind of hum along with, even if you don't know the lyrics. Because you can be like, there'll be chickens a-blowing and somebody going out to get some beer. And you can sing along without knowing any of the words. And it's got a really fascinating kind of rhythm to it. And again, it doesn't say Christmas. It doesn't say anything specific. It's just that most wonderful time of the year. So you can sing it any time at all, which is good because my child has a problem with earworms. She got it by watching me, but nonetheless, sometimes it'll be the middle of July and she'll just be singing along with something. And I'm like, nope, it's got to be the most wonderful time of the year because there's no mention of when it is, with the exception of some jingle belling. But there are bells in January. There are bells in July. It's fine.
Yeah, those are around.
It's the happiest season of all. That could be the tax season come next February and March.
It could be.
Kids like summer.
Yep. So I don't know when you guys, when we talk about the winter holiday season, for me, it kind of starts right at Thanksgiving and runs all the way in through like the second, third week of January.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, Matthew, I am very surprised at your number one.
Why is that?
Because I honestly expected your number one to be one of the songs that you and I both look forward to on Thanksgiving Day, and that is Alice's Restaurant.
It was a strong contender. I love that song.
It is a very good song, and for those that don't understand why this anti-war song is or an anti-draft song is what Matthew and I would consider a holiday song is because in Topeka, and I forget what radio station it is, WIBW probably. It's the only radio station, right?
It's the only one that you can remember?
Yeah.
No, it's V100 does it now.
Oh, right,
I'm not sure who did it when you lived here back in the 1930s.
I'm sure it was WIBW. But
Probably.
Every year at Thanksgiving, right around 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, they would say, okay, it's time. Just kind of like at the beginning of my list with I Want a Hippopotamus for Christmas and how everybody freaks out to hear that.
Oh, my God, it's a hippopotamus!
They will play Alice's Restaurant in its entirety at like 5 o'clock p.m. Central Time every Thanksgiving Day. And the reason why they do it is it's like a 20-minute song, Matthew?
18 something.
Yeah. It's a really long song. So it's rare that you would hear that any other time of the year, but they make a special point of playing that song on Thanksgiving Day. I guess that's the time when the DJ gets to go and have his Thanksgiving turkey. But
I think that is initially why they claim it started.
Okay.
Was because you couldn't get away with playing a 19 or 20-minute song during your regular rotation.
Inagata Davida or something like that.
Right. You can't do one of the long ones. But the thing that I really enjoy is there's actually a follow-up version where he talks about the Nixon White House and how when the Carter administration moved in, he met Jimmy Carter's son, Chip Carter. And Chip said that when they moved into the White House, they found a copy of Arlo's album. And Arlo's like, Chip, was it open? And then I got to thinking to myself, I said, Arlo, how many things in this world are 18 minutes and 20 seconds long? And so that's how Arlo Guthrie got a president out of office. That's not true, but it's a really good song.
Yeah.
The Alice's Restaurant Massacre. I cannot tell a lie, Stephen. I put that envelope under that garbage.
That's a great song if you guys haven't listened to it. And so I was just curious why that wasn't your number one. That's fine. We talked about it. That's time to move on.
Well, and I was sure that you would hit me with it too. So I'm like, Stephen's got that covered.
Because I don't. Because like I said before, growing up in my house, it was super traditional, Burl Ives, Christmas songs. It was, the occasional
that
chipmunk.
Lawrence Welk stuff.
Yes, definitely Lawrence Welk stuff in my parents' house.
Yep.
And the one
Fully
song
orchestrated things.
The one song, I mean, we never had Mannheim Steamroller. Of course not. That would be heresy in my parents' house to play something like that. I mean, right. Vince Guaraldi Trio Jazz? What is this? What is this Satan music? So my number one.
Sorry.
Steven, were you raised by John Lithgow from Footloose?
I was just like thinking about God, I'm totally blanking on their name. They do like I like coffee, I like tea. They're like a vocal group.
Yeah, I think I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
You know who I'm talking about?
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah, Manhattan Transfer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
just like listening to like your parents hearing the Manhattan Transfer and thinking that is too far.
Yeah.
It's
music. My parents, for whatever reason, they had this really old, console vinyl record player, That's what records are made on.
Yeah, records are made on vinyl.
And the thing was, I don't think you can do this now with the big 33 albums, but you could get this attachment to go on the spindle, and you could like stack like 8 albums on top of one another. And when one album would finish, it would trigger, a little drop down mechanism, and the next platter would drop and the needle would go back on and just play that. And then after the 8 albums were done, you'd flip them over and you could hear the other side and all that stuff. And that's basically, my parents had like 8 to 12 Christmas albums that they probably got in like 1969 when they got married.
20 to 30 feral hogs brought them around.
Probably. Christmas. And that's what my mom would do. She'd just put them all on the spindle and let them go. And we would just listen to those entire albums for the entire Christmas. And the one album that we definitely had that was in that was Bing Crosby's White Christmas and God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen, the very super traditional.
Yeah, not the David Bowie version.
Not the David Bowie version, no. Dad would be like, who's that Ziggy Stardust guy, and why is he singing with Bing Crosby?
He's bringing the devil into this house.
But, this super traditional Bing Crosby, I'm Dreaming of a White Christmas, an Irving Berlin song that wasn't made really popular until, it was popular, but when Crosby did it for the movie, sales just blew up and blew up the charts. And so this is the song that has become kind of defined for me, the holiday song, just because that is what was played in my house all the time. And if you've ever heard the entire album, I don't know which album this was on, but there's like, I don't know, it's a whole album. So there's like 10 songs on the album. But like Crosby goes in and there's like, he'll do a narration. I remember there's one track on there that's a narration of Bing Crosby doing A Visit from St. Nick.
Hi, everybody.
And it's set to this like musical score underneath. It's really weird. It's really trippy. So
I don't know about you, but I can't get enough of that Super Golden Crisp.
So for me, the number one holiday song, just because it was beat into my head for 18 years of my life, White Christmas by Bing Crosby.
Your poor little head.
Yeah, I know, right?
Does that explain the shape?
No, that's another reason. We're going to talk about that at a different time. Top 5 family abuse moments.
Oh.
Let's go to Rodrigo's number one, and then I'll have a follow-up question because I'm pretty sure his number one is not the one that I'm going to peg.
Sorry, I thought I was like, let's go to Rodrigo. I was like, yeah, so my mom puts all these oranges in a pillowcase, right? Right, this topic. We're still on this topic.
Yes, we are.
My number one is a song that I think is impressive for 2 reasons. One, it's a very good song. It's a song that I actually like listening to. A lot of Christmas songs, whether by virtue of just having been done to death or actually not being very good and just kind of because they're Christmas songs, they get a pass. I will get tired of. But Mariah Carey's "All I Want for Christmas Is You" is a song that I actually like listening to. I'll listen to it not around Christmas sometimes. And it's the sort of thing where it's like she finishes the song at like 17 octaves higher than a dog can hear. Like song fades out, and I'll just like hit the button and I just get like da-dun, 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 and just start it over, man. It's like I can listen to that song like 3 times in a row.
That's funny.
So I think it's very impressive because I feel that "All I Want for Christmas Is You" is a Christmas song that has been accepted into like Christmas music. Like stores will play it.
It's definitely a commercial song.
Yeah, people in their houses will play it. Obviously, every year there are commercials with it. But people know it, and I feel that the closer that we get to now, that becomes rarer and rarer. I think that a lot of songs in the 40s, just by virtue of being around, had made it in. 50s, 60s less so, 70s less so. I think the last song to make it before 1994 was probably "Last Christmas" by Wham in 1984.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like another one has gotten in since "All I Want for Christmas Is You" and really stayed.
It's like the Deadpool of Christmas songs. Everybody knows it inexplicably, and they don't realize it's from the 90s.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Exactly that.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, you really can't go wrong with Mariah Carey. Love that song, and it even trying to shoehorn Justin Bieber into it at some point didn't ruin it for me.
No, that's good. So my follow-up question then is, where does Rodrigo sit on Feliz Navidad?
I like it just fine.
Okay. I didn't know if it was something that is just like a horrible song or just an okay song.
I mean, it really is just an okay song.
It really is, yeah.
But I mean, if you look at Jose Feliciano's catalog, he's got way better songs, but that's the one that people know. Just like if you say to someone, that has to be relatively older, if you say Julio Iglesias to them, the only thing they can think of is that duet with Willie Nelson, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Like that's just where we're at on this side of the Anglo-Saxon divide.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much where my house is. So
the Anglo-Saxon divide.
Yeah, but yeah, Feliz Navidad is fun. I like it just fine, and it's
cute when the kids sing it.
It's cute when the kids sing it.
I always found it a little disrespectful in the Taco John's commercials.
I mean, you get that. If you ever want me to, I will go on about all of these catchy Latin American songs that have been turned into commercials. I think that like the Frito Bandito did some real damage that only it not being in the mainstream for decades has somehow managed to like cover over.
Oh, just wait until Disney Plus gets hold of it, then
I mean, to be fair, like, Coco was good.
Yeah, no, Coco's great. I still cry every time I see it.
Really, for all its faults, at least Disney either by hook or by crook ends up doing right by Mexicans, whether it's the Three Caballeros, which again was very thoroughly researched, or Coco, which was very, very thoroughly researched and thought out.
There you go. All right, listeners, there you go. There are our songs. Put them on your album. You can find the albums, put them on your record players, put them on your 8 tracks. I guess put them on your MP3s if you want to do that. And then start your holidays off right with some holiday songs right here from Major Spoilers. Now, if you're going to buy these, if you're going to buy them in album form, I guess I would say go over to the Major Spoilers website and click on that Amazon link, and you can get into the true spirit of Christmas when you make a purchase through that Amazon link, because it doesn't cost you anything extra, but a little bit comes back our way. And isn't Christmas all about the giving? All right, that wraps it up this time. Thank you, Rodrigo. Thank you, Matthew. And thank you, dear listeners, for being a part of everything that we do. And I think we will be back next time to talk more things on lists and other things that are not on lists. Why? Because everybody loves a list.
This podcast is copyright 2019 by Major Spoilers Entertainment, LLC.
It's the Get Holiday Ready sales event with Hank and Sam from the Ford crew. Today, a new shipment of inventory.
Hank, what's going on?
Another hauler full of new Ford trucks and SUVs, Sam.
So much SUV capability. Is that?
Ford F-Series, the best-selling trucks for 47 years. And a big selection means...
Big savings?
Yep, which means...
It's the best time to buy?
Well done, Sam. And time for America to get holiday ready with Ford.
Based on 1977 to 2023 CY Industry reported total sales.
Looking for a mortgage, credit card, or auto loan? Then you should know your FICO score. Did you know 90% of top lenders use FICO scores? Visit myfico.com/free today to get your FICO score for free. MyFICO makes it easy to understand your credit with FICO scores, credit reports, and alerts. Visit myfico.com/free or download the MyFICO app and discover the score lenders use most.